curious, biomaterial. Can you tell me a little bit about the process behind it? Because it's so interesting. You've told me some great kind of anecdotes about making it, and also how do you let that guide you?
It's really fun. Yeah, the bioplastic is quite an extreme example because you make it like really from scratch. So I started thinking of bioplastic for ethical reasons. Be like, okay, I really need to find a way of making that is not as poisonous. And so it started off like that. So I was working with a laboratory from Germany that's called Materiability, and they're really cool because they're really focused on new materials like that are sustainable. But even though they have like incredible kind of like infrastructure, they do help you to be able to develop it yourself. So I basically can do this at home or with like very simple, like, which is also interesting thinking about low technology, like things that don't require like a lot, like you make them in the desert very much. But basically it's a plastic that is made out of like agar, and like the coloring comes from like turmeric and like seaweed, and like, so all edible things, which, so it started off like, as I say, like very like, yes, ethical, but then when you start like doing something that you could eat, I mean,
of course, yeah, you're in the supermarket.
and you're like, this is for me, that's for this, you know, sort of for the sculpture. And then obviously the studio becomes like, you know, it's full of steam and the smell. So then I guess also because I'm very focused in the process, like it's like, again, it's really like the process is like where the work reveals itself, kind of like you. Also because I do love making things that are surprising for me. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, right, like,
wow, this is cool.
And sometimes I also have ideas. I'm like, I'm gonna do something that is a bit like that, and then you start working. It's like
completely different.
Exactly. Okay. You're like, okay, let's. But so I mean, and this, what's also nice about it is that you need to be extremely careful. So that's the thing also with, like, I guess, like sustainable work. That the reason I would imagine people don't use it as often is because you need to be super careful in terms of like the humidity, the weather. Then it's completely fine, but the process requires like, you know, like the timing is to be exact. So that also, that level of care is you know, like it really, like your attention is so, I don't know, so special that I feel like that kind of like then shapes the work somehow.
And one of the things that you were saying about especially this bioplastic is it's very localized. It does depend on things like humidity. It depends on where you're making it.
Yeah, no, that is super interesting to think of, because even in such a, like a globalized world, or like a situation when we get so used to all the things, then you realize how textiles are like so dependent on the city. And so I've started making them in London, but then I have also worked with them in Brussels and in Madrid. And you realize, like, for instance, in Madrid, the textile market changes a lot depending on the season. So you can only get silk like in spring and summer, and then obviously England is fantastic for like textiles, so you got such a big array. And so it's really fun because it's like I mean, we all change depending, I feel, in the territory we work in. But it's nice where you are also like, you know, and like dependent on what's available. And I feel like that also is a big part of my work. That is like I do like to kind of like be open and adapt and be like, well, I obviously have like impulses and things that attract me, but it's really nice to arrive to a place and be like, what can I do here? You know, and also I've had so many different studios and working situations. So speaking of habitat, before, like, this show doesn't have like artificial light during, and that's quite common. I tend to do exhibitions that are only exhibited with natural light, and that's because I work with natural light. So that I feel there is something respectful of, like, if the work is made with a certain, you know, like environment, it's nice to try to bring that to the exhibiting space as well. And then it's really funny because the light changes so much that it feels like it's breathing or something. Like it's something,
no, especially in this room.